So we're going to go through all these now, okay? So one, asking questions creates a conversation. So the purpose is to get a dialogue going, okay? If you really want the opportunity to share your faith with someone, I think in this day and age, it's going to take some time. It's going to be pretty rare that, you know, you're going to have one conversation with someone you just met and have a good opportunity to share your faith with them. Now, if that opportunity comes up, you should always be ready for that. But when we're talking about friends and family and you know, people maybe, I don't know, you work out with or do a sport with, you want to start building a rapport with them. So ask them questions, right? This shows you care about their opinions. It shows that you're not just looking to force your beliefs on them, that you actually want to understand where they're coming from. And like I said at the beginning, is like, these are just good conversation techniques. These are just good techniques for if you want to get to know someone. I jokingly tell my high school students, listen, these are good, but it's true, is these are good techniques when you're out on a date, right? This is a good way to get to know the person you're on the date with. Ask questions, show interest in what their opinions are. Actually listen, don't just wait to talk, okay? If David, you gave a great example of when you asked someone whether they believed in God or not, right? So actually listen then, ask them more questions so you really understand what they believe, right? Now, from a tactical standpoint, from a, you know, again, we don't want this to come across as it's, you know, some cold, hard technique we're just following. Again, think back to that example I gave of the guy down in Florida who, no matter where the conversation went, he had one goal in mind, and that was always to get to that question he was going to ask them. But really what you want to do is listen and gather information. And again, not in a way to try to manipulate the person, but to truly understand what they're saying. And there might be something they say that you just can, you know, maybe bring up later and say, hey, I remember you said this. I wanted to hear more about that. Okay? Work for a correct understanding. Don't assume anything. Now, this is really important when I found, especially when I'm talking to someone from another religion or a Christian cult. So for example, Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door a lot, and I've read up on what they believe. But when they come to my door, instead of me saying, well, you know, you guys believe this, so this is what I think about that. I allow them to explain it to me. I say, well, what do you believe about Jesus? Even though I've read up on what they believe, I've actually read their literature they've given me so I can understand what they literally say. I don't tell them what they believe. I allow them to tell me. I might, you know, I've even said questions like, well, I was raised Baptist. What's the difference between a Baptist and a Jehovah's Witness? I've asked them questions like, I've even said, well, you believe in this, is that correct, or am I getting that wrong, right? So I do it in a very, if I do state something they believe, I do it in a very humble way that shows that I'm open to correction if that's not what they actually believe. All right, here's your quiz. Anybody know who that is? Just remember, I taught high school English for 16 years.
Is that C.S. Lewis?
No, good guess, but no. I'm not sure if this man was a Christian or not, honestly.
He looks like a really young Ernest Hemingway.
Good guess. Very good guess, but no. One more guess. Anybody? It's the author of Mice and Men and Grapes of Wrath.
Steinbeck.
Yep, John Steinbeck. Yep. Yeah, when I was teaching Mice and Men, I came across this quote by him, and it's just stayed with me, and I think it's a great quote. He says, try to understand men, meaning people. If you understand each other, you will be kind to each other. Knowing a man well never leads to hate and almost always leads to love. So I think a good thing to keep in mind while having these conversations is that we're working for understanding. We want to understand if the person's hostile towards Christianity, you know, don't look to defend Christianity right away. Work to try to understand how they ended up there. So like I said, asking a question creates a conversation. One of our useful questions, like I said, these are taken right from Greg Kokel's Tactics, is what do you mean by that? So let me give you an example. And like I said, the reason why I'm giving you personal examples is because I am not a natural evangelist. I grew up in a household that we weren't confrontational, so I'm not a person that's comfortable with confrontation, even though sometimes I might seem very calm on the outside when I'm having a bit more heated discussion with someone. Usually inside my stomach's in knots. I just naturally am not like a person who likes to get in confrontations and debates. So the point of telling you this stuff is when I give you illustrations from my life, I'm not bragging or trying to show how smart I am. I'm showing you that if it works for me, I think it will work for you. So I'll keep this short. I do jiu-jitsu. It's a very social martial art where between rounds and training, we sit around on the mats and talk a lot. And I had a friend who was training with me there, who's also a Christian, and he was a natural evangelist. It amazed me how many times I would walk by him and he'd be engaging with some of our training partners in spiritual conversations. I honestly don't know how he did it that easily and that well. Again, I'm not great at it. But one day as he was sitting there having a discussion with some guys about whether there was a spirit world or an unseen world, one of our instructors walked by and I heard him just kind of say, I believe in an unseen world, and just kind of kept walking. So I just kind of filed that away. And a little later, I was sitting near that instructor and I said to him, hey, I heard you say that you believe in an unseen world when they had that conversation. And I asked him, well, what do you mean by that? Like, I just want to kind of understand where you're coming from. And we wound up having a great conversation. I understood his view a little more. I was able to point out where we had some common ground as myself as a Christian, and I was able to share my faith some with him. Now, was I able to give him the full gospel and all that at that one conversation? No, but it definitely opened up the opportunity to have more conversations. Now, what's really interesting is my friend, the one who I said that's very good at evangelism, he also admittedly can get very combative in arguments or in debates. So when he would get pushback from one of our non-believing or atheist training partners, he would usually get pretty argumentative. And he came up to me once and said, how did you get so-and-so to have that conversation with you? Because he never wants to talk to me. And the truth is the way I did that was by simply asking him a question and actually listening to him. So I think he realized the other guy was just going to look to demolish him in an argument, so he wasn't that open to talking to him. So what do you mean by that can really open up a conversation?